Today we're going to work on getting started with TinkerCad. TinkerCad is simply a three-dimensional design software tool that will let you make 3D shapes. Here I've created a pink snowman, and I'm going to show you how you can create that same snowman. First of all, notice that when you start, you'll need to create a new design. And once you get started, you have a little orientation tool here that allows you to rotate your design area so that you can see it from different angles. If you rotate all the way flat, this is almost like looking at a piece of two-dimensional graph paper. You can see that my snowman is just a big sphere or ball sitting on the bottom, then a medium sphere, then a small sphere, and they're all stacked up vertically. When you look at it from the top, it just looks like a series of circles. But when you rotate so that you see it from the front, you can see those spheres. They're also connecting to each other so that you can't really see the top or the bottom of every sphere because they're connected inside each other. You can also rotate right and left. And you'll notice when you do that that my snowman is not actually standing up perfectly straight. So as you move back and forth, you'll want to use these tools to look from above, look from below, rotate all the way to see it from the top side, and if you hit the little home button, it moves you back to the home position. Next, you can use the plus sign to zoom in and the minus sign to zoom out. Okay? But let's get started now by actually taking these off. I'm going to select each object and press delete so that you can see really how I created things in the first place. Over here at the upper right-hand side of TinkerCad, you'll notice that there are helper shapes to get started. If I click any one of these categories, it shows me the shapes. Let's click this cube that's solid and go to the geometric shapes. There are other shapes in here, but move down to the geometric shapes. You'll see a box and a cylinder, pyramid, that kind of looks like the Luxor, and other shapes. But let's select the sphere. So if I select the sphere and move over to the grid, I can just drop it down by clicking. Now again, I can rotate so that I can see where I really am on the grid. And I'm going to mostly look at this from this angle for the next few seconds. If I click on the inspector, I can change the color. So here's where I can make this a pink snowman, but you could change it to any color you want. So whatever you like as far as your snowman color, go ahead and select that. This time I could select orange if I wanted. Or maybe even a baby blue snowman. When you click off of it, the inspector goes away. Now what I need to do is I need to put another sphere on top. This is where TinkerCad starts to get a little bit tricky because when you add a new shape, you may think that you're putting it on top or beside of your original shape, and it may not be in that position at all. So I'm going to rotate to where I'm looking at this flat from above, as though it's a two-dimensional shape looking down on the graph paper. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring another sphere over. Okay. And you'll notice that as I move around, it looks like when I touch the original sphere, I'm intersecting with or crossing over into that sphere. Let's go ahead and put the sphere right here. Again, I'll change the color. Just for clarity though, I'm going to change it to like a greenish shade. But notice once I rotate back, what actually happened. I put it in front of the original object, didn't I? So I didn't really put it on top at all. You'll notice that there's a little arrow attached to my object, and if I press that arrow and pull, I'm actually going to be lifting it up. The numbers show you how far above the plane I'm lifting the sphere. So now when I rotate, you can see that lifting a little more easily. But when I go to the other view, you really can't see that, right? Because you can't see that up and down motion. In this top view, though, I can move the sphere over the original sphere, and I can use these sizing dots to resize it. If I keep the dimensions the same, then it'll stay spherical, so 12 by 12. And then move it by grabbing anywhere not on a sizing dot and positioning it on top. Again, I can rotate back, and now I can see that I did place it on top, but it's a little bit weirdly stretched, so I think I'm going to have to grab this top dot and pull this back in. Okay? Now, again, I can use this arrow to move it up and down. If I squish it in, now it's all the way inside. Now only a little bit's peeking out. Now a little bit more. You can rotate back and forth to change those dimensions. I feel like that I maybe got that second sphere just a little too small. So I'm going to increase the size and then grab somewhere other than a dot, reposition. You can even use your arrow keys. Right now I'm using my arrow keys to move this around slightly. You'll notice there is a grid snap indicator on the right. The smaller the number, the slighter the adjustments, tinier the adjustments. The bigger the number, the bigger the adjustments. So if I drop down to 0.5, and it makes slightly smaller adjustments. Now I can rotate again. That looks a bit better, but I really still need to pull this up a bit. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I need my top sphere. Just so you know, you can duplicate an object, so you can go to Edit, Duplicate, or Edit, Copy and Paste. So if you like, let's try that. Let's duplicate that last sphere. When you did so, it didn't look like anything happened, but you actually did make a duplicate. I'm going to change the color again, just so that you can see the difference of all these different sections. This time I'm on yellow. Remember, when I click off, that little inspector goes away. And I'm going to need to place this on top. Whoop, but it keeps kind of disappearing. How about I rotate a little bit? Go ahead and pull it up so it's a little easier to see where I am. Rotate back. I will need to make this a smaller sphere, so grab those sizing dots. Try to keep the numbers about the same so that it's proportional and it's still spherical. Move it on top. You can use your arrow keys to slightly move it around. Then rotate back. Pretty good, but again, I got it a little out of proportion. It's 13 millimeters vertically, so I need to reduce that. That's a little better, and I need to still pull it up. There we go. Now let's rotate around. Make sure that I don't have things out of alignment side to side. Looks pretty good. You can look at it from underneath and above. Hit the home position. There's my snowman. Zoom in, and there he is. And of course, now you can start to think about doing things like adding eyes, maybe using a cone to make the nose, and other features that you might have on your snowman. But start slow, take your time, work on learning these basic tools, and remember to rotate around. Look at it from the different directions so that you can get your snowman oriented correctly in 3 dimensions. Let's get started.